kutaura nyaya dzebonde pane zvakawanda zvatisingakwanise kutaura pakati pedu sehama neshamwari nekuti tsika nemagariro hazvititenderi kuti tichizvitaure, and it's not only in the African culture. Namhlanje we're just going to dive a little bit into the Indian community ukuthi sike sizwe ukuthi how does it really happen in their community. Are we going to learn something from them, or are they going to learn something from us? Or basically sizofundisana, because that is what it is all about. We are talking sex and culture. In the years as I grew up, I was told that it is a woman's job to please the man sexually. But nothing has ever been said about the man pleasing the woman sexually. Those are some of the things that we are trying to break and stop right here on the Naked Truth Show, where we talk all things sex, sexuality, and health. Namhlanje, again, I am not alone. I have Alicia, who is going to talk to us about what really happens in terms of sex and culture in the Indian community. We're talking sex and culture, and to help us to discuss this, we have Alicia, who is a Zimbabwean-born Indian woman, and we're going to learn quite a lot from her. Alicia, welcome to the Naked Truth.
Thank you.
Ready to get naked with us?
Absolutely.
Okay, like not that naked.
No, not that naked.
Okay. All right. So I'm African. I've got some of these things I know about sex and culture, and I practice some of them and I don't practice some of them. I think some of them are just like nonsense, but you know, we just have to do certain things. Within the Indian culture, what is the most like ridiculous culture in terms of sex that you've heard of before we get into everything else?
So I think what's important to know is that in the Indian culture, sex is not spoken about.
Sorry?
It's a secret. Well, not a secret. It's supposed to be done behind closed doors. Don't talk about it. Don't ask about it. Nobody talks about it.
But they know it's happening.
Of course. I mean, India has the highest population in the world. So it's happening.
So do it, but don't talk about it.
Don't talk about it. Don't ask about it. You know, I'm a married woman. Nobody, not my aunts, not my mom, not my sisters, or anyone elder to me, spoke to me about it. So we're just supposed to go into marriage, and our husbands obviously expect us to be some sort of sex goddesses, but we're not.
Because no one is talking.
No, and we're clueless. Especially some of us are virgins when we get married.
Right.
So, you know.
So is it a cultural thing not to discuss sex at all? Like at all? Amongst your friends, you
Yes.
probably would.
Yes.
But within family, like with family members, like with us, we've got our aunties, our tetes, who would sit us down before we get married, and they'll tell us, you know, this is what you do before sex, this is what you do after sex, and during sex, make sure your back doesn't touch the ground. And, you know, they'll give you like little tidbits. Are you saying it's not there in the Indian culture?
Not there. Not with me, not with any of my friends. And you must know, most of us are educated girls. We've been to university. But nobody has actually sat us down and spoken to us about sex.
So what do you do when you get it? How was your wedding night?
Most girls' wedding nights are not comfortable.
You know?
It's awkward. So okay, in our culture, we get married, right? And then on your wedding night, it's known as the Suhag Rath.
Suhag Rath.
So there's so much hype created. They'll decorate the bed, they'll put flowers, garlands. Well, I mean, you could. Sometimes the husband buys, if he wants to see his wife in something. And then they'll even put like a glass of milk on the side of the bed.
What does the milk do?
The milk it's filled with nuts.
Like?
Cashew nuts. That's supposed to increase the man's virility. So it's supposed to give him that stamina to go all night. But truth be told, I'm sure nothing happens. Because
they don't know what to do.
They don't know what to do. Chances are the males or the husbands have had some sort of sexual experience before, because it's not taboo or unheard of for the man to have had sex before marriage. but they expect all their wives to be virgins. So I don't know who they're having the sex with.
But
All the
But my
girls have
wife
to be,
has to be a virgin.
trust me, it's in every culture. It's in every culture. It's like every man is like that. My wife has to be a virgin, but
I could be everywhere.
I could be, yes, I could be everywhere. Okay, so sex is not spoken about. So obviously things like labia stretching, like
Yeah.
as in preparation, do you...
I actually haven't ever heard of that. The first time I heard of that was when I was preparing for this show and they sent me I had to Google what that was. Never heard of it.
So you mean you...
No, we don't know what that is.
Oh my gosh. All right, maybe after the show.
We can discuss.
Yes, we can discuss, because there's things that women go through to prepare for this wedding night per se, or the sexual act.
Right.
And we are told certain things, like if it doesn't look or feel a certain way, it's not going to be satisfactory to the man. Now, in that regard, are women in the Indian culture supposed to be submissive? Like, if you were to initiate sex, what would your husband say?
I think he'd be thrilled. My husband.
Okay, your husband.
But he's modern, He's not old.
Okay, so now there's a...
So there's
a line?
Yeah, there's big differences. I mean, so my husband's like me, also studied abroad, so he's a lot more open-minded to a certain extent, obviously.
Right.
But so he. Sorry, what was the question?
Like, if you were to initiate sex,
Oh, he'd be thrilled. My husband would be thrilled.
but then in general?
Actually, I think, so while researching this, the Indian culture and sexuality, there's a lot of articles on it, actually, where psychologists in India have written about it. And if you go through our history, we were a very sexual sort of people before the colonizers came to
Yes,
India.
of course. Because when I saw you walking, I was like, whoo, the Kama Sutra queen. He's here. I was already like trying to get my, center myself.
So yes.
I will agree with that one.
So what has happened? So culturally, we were quite a provocative people. I mean, if you look at the sari, I'm a Hindu, right?
our
Traditional dress is the sari. All you
Skin.
exactly.
All you see is skin.
You're seeing the curves, you're seeing the hips, you're seeing the bust.
And you're very comfortable with that. Like, it's...
My mom wears it. My grandmother wears it. And, it's actually fine. So we were quite and then when when India started being colonized by the British, the Dutch, the French, whoever came and colonized, the Western sort of influence started making it more perverse.
Okay, so what is the Kama Sutra about? Because I'm thinking Kama Sutra, it's just how they teach you how to have sex in 94 different, was it 100 positions or whatever it is. Position 54 and, get the...
And then the girls should know.
Yes, and the girls should know.
So the Kama Sutra is not this sort of ancient scripture, big Indian sex secret that gets passed on from generation to generation. It is a book or a guideline, and if you actually break it down, the word Kama means love, and it was also the god of love. Sutra means thread, so like, binding something to another. So it was an actual manual on how to be in love. So if you actually had to read it, there's chapters on holding hands.
Like how to hold hands.
How to hold hands.
Guys, there's a correct way to hold hands. Just don't grab the hand.
On kissing. It's more a manual on intimacy. And it was I think it was Western culture that created this sort of perverted, that it's a sex manual. Because while the sex positions are there, it is supposed to be enjoyed between two people who are in love, and it's supposed to enhance that sexual experience. It's supposed to be a spiritual bond, not just a physical bond. And that's what this actual book was about. While saying this, the first time I heard about it was when I became older and people started, talking to me, and like someone from a different culture would say to me, well, like you say, you're an Indian, you should know Kama Sutra, you should know it.
And I would honestly think, yes, in as much as you don't talk about sex within your family members or the elders talking to the younger ones,
They give you the manual.
just give the book.
Like here.
No, so the first time I heard about it was when I was an adult, or, when somebody asked me, I had to actually go and research what are they talking about. because my mom's never spoken to me about it. I don't think my granny, who's from India, knew what the Kama Sutra was.
Oh my goodness.
It's it's this big sort of myth where they think that, because we come from India, we are of Indian origin,
We
know the
should
Kama
know.
Sutra.
We should know. Wow. All right. So now we've spoken about, okay, sex is not discussed in your culture. The Kama Sutra is from Indian origin, Indian descent. However, was manipulated by the Western, perverted somehow into just making it into a sex manual.
So it's not just a sex
It's
manual.
not just a sex manual. It's more than a sex manual.
And I'm sure even half the population of India hasn't seen it.
God,
So
I don't
it
believe
was
that.
It was written in Sanskrit, which is what our script
Which is
is
a
Yes.
written in.
So it's an
Yes.
Ancient language. But it was written by a man to help, others reach some sort of a connection, physical,
So should
sexual.
we now question some of the information in these Kama Sutra books?
No.
Plenty.
I'm sure those those positions and what have you exist, but it's not there to sort of be like a manual to become a sex god or sex goddess. It's there to help you, reach intimacy with your partner.
Right.
You know?
Right. Let's talk about marriage within the Indian community. We know a lot of arranged marriages happen, and at times they don't go far to find your husband. They will find your husband within your cousins and extended cousins, and then you also have to be a virgin on top of that. So guide me through the marriage process in the Indian community.
So, back in the day, where they had arranged marriages, the parents would identify a person of the opposite. So, if they have a son, they'd identify a daughter from a family that they know that's probably the same caste as them, same financial background, social background, and then they would introduce the couple. So, I know of couples where they meet for one meeting, and after that one meeting, they're supposed to agree, or they say, right, do you like the guy? Do you like the girl? Yes, get engaged. There's no dating or anything, but it's different now.
Like-
myself and my husband, we met, we dated,
Right.
then we got married.
Right.
So that's changed, but the traditional Indian sort of cultural way is an arranged marriage. And that still does happen. But now it's gone beyond that. It's so elaborate. I mean, I don't know if you've heard of the Indian matchmaker.
No, tell me.
So it's a Netflix show where there's a woman. She's an Indian matchmaker. And she's all over the world. So she has like clients in America who she's matchmaking. And
From the Indian culture.
Indian community, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So I mean, there's the criteria is so different. I mean, if you watch it, you'll understand how it works, because she has to not only match their social status. The moms want a certain thing, the boy, the groom himself wants certain things. So she goes and sits with all these. So they get what is known as a biodata. So like, if you want to get married, you prepare a biodata. I am so-and-so, my education, my background, whatever. The boy will do the same, and these matchmakers will put them together and then say, right, this is the match for you. And the thing is, you still have a choice, which is the good thing.
Which is the good thing.
Nowadays, that you still do have a choice.
Okay, so now you mentioned earlier that you're from the Hindu, and then you've obviously got the Muslim, which is like the two biggest Indian religions that we have amongst the
culture.
Indian culture.
Right.
So say you're a Hindu and you have your eye on a Muslim guy, then what?
That's a bit of a no-no, because I mean, that's not usually heard of. It's very controversial, and there's a lot of that sort of happening right now in India.
But the cases of that happening,
I mean, it happens, and sometimes you can't help who you love.
true.
But a lot of the times, or most of the times, if you do marry a Muslim, you're expected to convert to that religion, and a lot of Hindu parents are not happy about that.
Okay, so let's go into the bedroom a little bit here. In my culture, in African culture, the women are taught to be submissive in the bedroom. Our aim is to please the man and not necessarily the woman being pleasured. So if you are having sex with your husband and he orgasms before you, are you in a position to say, hey, buddy, listen, nothing happened here? Or do you just like, okay, he's done, let me just get up and go and clean myself? Or do you clean yourself up after that? Or do you just go to sleep? Like, what happens in the bedroom in that regard?
So I'm fortunate. My husband, he's from the modern sort of school of thought, and he does believe in that the woman has, must be pleasured as well.
Yeah.
So I'm
Very lucky. Like my husband will circle back and make sure.
but I'm also
You will
happy.
circle back.
Yeah.
He's
Like,
So I'm fortunate in that. But I don't know. I'm sure other husbands don't. I mean, like I was telling you earlier, I have friends who
Yes.
don't enjoy sex. They married like for 8 or 9 years and they still don't enjoy it. And their husbands even say to them that, I feel like I'm raping you because you're not at all stimulated.
so is it then a taboo thing to go and seek help? Because I can't be married 10 whole years and I'm still finding sex uncomfortable, I'm not enjoying it, or it's painful, and I must just lie there and take it.
No, I don't think it's taboo. I think, we've moved on as a community as well, where, as we've become also a little bit modernized, women are allowed to go and seek help.
Okay.
Yeah.
But within like husband and wife, they can't really, or like between partners, they can't really talk about, I'm not enjoying it, or it's painful.
So, like, I know certain couples, even here in Harare, who had a divorce because the girl said, he's impotent. I can't stay married to him. And she came out in the community and said it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is she safe?
But he's obviously not. He's got kids now, so
Yeah.
with another woman.
Right.
But I mean, this has changed over time. I think back in the day, the women were supposed to just be mum and take it.
And take it. You mentioned divorce. How is divorce viewed?
It's becoming so. This program, the Indian Matchmaker, this woman's from India, and she goes around and she says marriages are breaking like biscuits in India, which is the fact of the matter. Divorce is becoming more of a normal thing, whereas before it wasn't. I think in our community here in Zim, I might know 2 or 3 couples who are divorced. We don't really hear so much about divorce.
All right. And are they treated the same? Like, you were married before, you were friends with other couples, and then now you're not together. Who is shunned, the woman or the man, when the divorce process is going on?
I don't think it's viewed as a taboo anymore. Like the woman said, marriages are breaking like biscuits.
So it
You
is
know?
what it is.
It is what it
Comes
is.
to-
Yes, of course.
When it comes to that. So you can't talk about sex, but can you talk about sexual pleasure, like masturbation? Like with the married women who are not enjoying sex for a whole 10 years. I know, I mean, I would find something. I would do something to like at least give myself some pleasure.
So from like what I know of Islam, which is the Muslim religion, I don't think masturbation is even allowed. I think in the religious book, you might find that I'm wrong, but from my understanding is they're not even allowed to. So the husband is not even allowed to go down on his wife.
No,
Yes.
no, Kat, I think we're finished. What?
That's what I've been told.
Okay, you have a smile on your face. You're just like, oh, shame, poor them. As for me,
Well,
I mean,
I don't know if they practice, but this is from what I've been told by friends.
Right, right.
So, I mean, masturbation is not spoken about at all.
but in your circle, have you then come to a stage where you can discuss masturbation either as single or as married people?
So, okay, I'll just tell you about my husband has visited the intimate store and bought, so you can know that
Okay.
obviously in our marriage it's okay.
It's fun.
and
And I heard him advising friends to go. so he's okay. He's very open.
You are bringing up a very interesting point here. Women are not really open and talking about the sex, but the men seem to be on that note. Like, I mean, if your husband is able to tell his friends, like, hey, go and take a visit there.
I don't know if he was joking or he had one too many drinks, but I just heard him telling a friend, and I was like, okay.
Like, go and
Go and buy your wife something.
Oh my goodness. Alicia, we could talk on and on. If you were to just classify sex and culture in the Indian community, would you say it's still ancient or you are catching up to the modern ways?
I think it's difficult to say because remember, I speak of the Indian community that lives in Zimbabwe, South Africa.
Is obviously different.
No, even South Africa, because I've been there and
Right.
my friends are there. But I think in India it's very different. I think they've moved on. They've modernized. They sleep around. It's fine. They all have live-in relationships, whereas here that's unheard of. Or in our community, I think there's those Indians that have moved away from the subcontinent have clung stronger or more strongly
To the
culture of the old than people in India.
All right. Before we close this, I'm just going to take you back a little bit in having people accepting you in the Indian community. Say you discover that your close friends are either lesbian, gay, both, queer, like the whole alphabet.
Right.
How are they viewed? How are they treated?
So I think while people know of people in the Indian community who are also LGBTQ, whatever,
Yeah.
we don't really, so myself, I don't really treat them differently. But I think the rest of the community will know, but they don't talk about it. But not to say that they're shunned.
Okay.
Just as long as they don't flaunt the lifestyle in front of the Indian community.
Then it's
It's fine. Then keep your business behind.
All is well.
Yes, just ignore.
Okay, well, Alicia, thank you so much for joining us. Well, I for one, learned a lot, and I'm sure everybody else is just like, oh my gosh, we need to talk about that Libya thingy. Yes, I think my mind is still stuck there. Like, no, someone needs to tell them. Thank you so much. More of this when we come back. It is the Naked Truth Show. We'll be right back. Alrighty, so let's just say you belong to that community where you really can't talk about sex, or that family where if you mention sex, it's like you are grounded for life. Here's a little bit of some advice. Being a bridal shower or a baby shower, you might just learn a few things there because they have invited guests. You know those invited guests, the special ones that do some of these things for a living. They could teach you a thing or two so that you don't have a boring sex life for 10 years and can't even communicate with your partner. But above all, let's just make sure that we understand it is important to have the relevant and right information when it comes to sex, because this is how we end up with the boring, dangerous at times sex life. Until next time, people, this is the Naked Truth Show, where we give you all things to do with sex, sexuality, and health. The Naked Truth. Ciao.